DSLR camera, like a mirrorless, like a $3,000 camera. Mm-hmm. So I would set it up. The problem is that it would only record for 30 minutes at a time. It was just
right.
Sony Sony had that first part of those cameras. That series of cameras, it would only record for 30 minutes. It would cut off, no matter what you did, and it used to aggravate the crap out of me because I could never figure out how can I get to run past 30 minutes because it was just me, and I had to set everything up, and my guest would be over here. So I had a big monitor TV up here where I just crazy kind of set up. I wanted to see how much I could do with it. So we would just have to, I'd be, hey, take a break for a second. If we'd stop talking, I'd get up, change it out again, and start back. And edit and post, I would just put them together.
Right.
We just nothing ever stopped.
Yeah, I guess that part just took more time out of you then, because if you got to edit together, and then I guess it kind of stalls the conversation too.
Yeah,
you can tell the difference.
Oh yeah, it was definitely a big difference in the. I just never had it was just me, and I didn't never had anybody to help me with it. So,
right.
But it was just it was a lot. So that was probably a big reason. Well, it wasn't really the only reason, but it was just a lot of work. Between working 40 hours a week plus that plus the photography business and the podcast thing was just kind of like I wanted to talk about things, I guess. And I had a bunch of friends that were musicians and accomplished musicians, and I knew other people outside the industry, and so it was just going to be structured around. I was kind of leaving it like an open forum kind of thing, or we just talk about anything, because I had a very diverse bunch of friends and opinions, and people on the left, people on the right, but we were all friends, so it was just kind of how we all functioned together, and so it was just it was a lot. It was a big, it was a whole big bunch of work.
Well, since she did start it. Well, tell everyone who you are, because you're a new, fresh face, hopefully for a while on the podcast.
My name is Chris Wicker. I'm originally from Floyd County, which is back in the mountains of eastern Kentucky. I've lived in Richmond since 98, I think. I went to college at Eastern, graduated from there and stayed here. I worked for the Berea Police Department for about 21 years. I retired from there about 5 months ago. Primarily, I do property management. I do my photography business. I've had it for a while. I do it kind of part-time, full-time kind of a thing. I'm a musician. I play pretty much just about every weekend. If it's some way to hustle to make some money or whatever, I'm usually about trying to make some money or trying to find some way to do something. But yeah, I do. That's pretty much what I do now.
All right, so let's go back to your trip to Florida. We're through Alabama at this point.
Oh God, Alabama. If I was to ever move to Florida, I would never come back to Kentucky. Not because I would miss Kentucky, but man, that drive, I would be a big deterrent. Like, hell no, I'm not coming back to Kentucky. That drive was just terrible. But finally got into Florida, and I remember just following this Jeep. This was probably the second time in my entire life that I ever driven to Florida. Most time I would fly, but I was like, I'm just gonna drive it, just have a good trip, right? So the entire time, it started out terrible. I remember I played music that night, and my goal was I got done playing at 12. I had to pack up all my crap. So I'm a drummer, so drummers have got 5,000 pieces of stuff to load up and put in, 50 trips between the bar or the door in your car. I definitely I should have been like a flute player, or something, like a harmonica player, put it in one case and go on. But anyway, so my plan was to get done, go home, unload my stuff, and take off that night. Well, I was so tired, I didn't get. So I'm going to sleep for a couple hours. So a couple hours turned into like 4 hours. I started driving. I would drive 30 minutes, just about pass out, having to take sleep, and I was so tired. Anyway, this went on for the entire way to Florida. Like, I had to park somewhere, I'd sleep for, an hour or two. So this trip that was supposed to take, in theory, you look at, it's only, 10-hour drive, it's not that bad. man, it's terrible. So anyway, get into Florida, and so I was there for this photographer kind of content creation day. They had like 20 models, and there was 20 photographers, and we all were staying in this huge big house. Like it's this big old house. It's a huge, humongous house. It's like a Airbnb kind of thing. So we get there, and the first thing I start trying to think about is like, where am I going to sleep? Because I'll start looking, and you're trying to weigh out like, okay, beds, people, right, couches, and I'm like, man, I'm 47 years old. My big ass is not going to sleep on no couch. I mean, it's just not going to happen. I will never sleep on any couch. I will never get any sleep, especially for 4 days. And it's kind of one thing when you start getting older, you really like your sleep.
I'm like that now, man.
Yeah. But yeah, we get there, and there's we had like a house meeting at 2:00 that day, and I could just already tell it was going to be just complete chaos. It was just. That stuff never works out the way that the people that put this stuff together, it never works out the way it's going to work out. Like there's always something that's going to be jacked up somewhere. And so yeah, it was just 4 days of just nonsense and just crazy stuff for 4 days. And so then the day comes to go back to Kentucky, and I was like, can I leave the car? Can I just leave it here and fly back? I mean, what can I do? Because I'd rented a car, and I seriously thought about, I'll just leave it here. And then I just drove back. So it was just I really do not like the drive to Florida.
Was it as bad driving back?
Yeah, it was, because I was kind of excited to go down there, so you're trying to hurry up and get back. But then the dread of like, God, I dread driving this back.
Yeah.
So it was just a long drive back. I was, yeah, but it was a good time to get out of Kentucky for a few days. Just to, I haven't been to the beach in a while, so which I'm not really a beach kind of person anyway. I mean, back in my days when I would go to the beach, it was with me and my boys, and we would throw some football, drink some beer, and chase girls on the beach or whatever. Now I'm older, it was just like, that's the beach.
Yeah, it's hot out here.
It's hot. I'm gonna go back and sit down. I mean, but it was while I was there, I did some pictures of the oceans, and stuff like that, and just did some night photography of the sky and the stars. But it was all right though. It was a good mental break from getting away from here.
What do you play?
The instrument?
I mean, like genre.
Oh, man. So there's about my main band. We play just your regular bar bands, right? Most people around here, your bar bands, they play southern rock, country. They play some 80s and 90s kind of stuff. It all depends too on who's in your band, like what musicians that you got and all this other stuff. But anyway, we play mostly just bar music. What everybody want to play. Like if I've played one Leonard Skinner song, I've played every one of them, and I wish I had $1 for every time I've played one Skinner song, because I could probably buy a mansion somewhere here in Richmond.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to have a bucket that we sat, which we still have this bucket, which my band, the Wild Card Band, we just started coming back playing.
Oh, that's a cool name.
Yeah, so we had and it's a funny how we got that name, and it was really kind of really funny. But I'll tell you how we got that in a minute. But we set this bucket on stage, and there's a list of songs, and what's that one song? The Skinner song. Everybody wants to hear it. Gosh, I'll think of it in a minute. But we put, there's Copperhead Roads on this thing, and so each song has a dollar amount. Like if you want to hear, this Skinner song, it's $25. If you want to hear this song, it's $50. If you want to hear, but we didn't put it in our set list because that's how bad I hated doing the songs. And what I do is I usually run our set list. Like I'm the one that comes up with the sets, and where I'm the drummer, I keep everything kind of here, and so we're pretty good about. I really hate dead space and dead air when I'm on stage. Like I can't stand it. And if anybody's ever played with me before, especially if I've been the person that's been managing everything and running the sets, and I'm pretty particular about, if you show up looking like an ass on stage, you look like, like you just didn't really give care what you I'm pretty particular about that stuff. And but I hate dead air. So that's one thing that I don't like is I'll run. So I'll play and then I'll run through songs really like just song to song to song, and then we won't take a break like in between until like the fifth song in. But anyway, the wild card band. There was me and a guy that I used to work with named Jason Kirby. He was a bass player, guitar player. So we were in this habit of like we would just call and cold book. Like I was really good about marketing things that just had no. There was just like we would just put something up, and I was really good about marketing it. Like
why
very
did
good.
Make you laugh?
Well, so one time I proved a point to somebody. They were like. I said, I guarantee you I can get 5 bookings within this area, and I'm just going to make this page today, and I bet you by next weekend I'll have 5 bookings. Like I was just going like off the cuff, like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to try to figure this out. Just play with. So I made a Facebook page, and I called the band Cold Stone, the ice cream people, Cold Stone, right? So I just made this name up. I put like stock photos of crowds through like Adobe stock photos. I put, I just do like reviews. I put on reviews stuff up. We were a Nashville touring band. We had been all stuff, and I swear by that following weekend, and I had nobody to play in this at all. Like we had nobody. It was just me just playing around with trying to get bookings right. I had 7 bookings for the next 3 weeks just by making this stuff up. I mean, it was just, and I just marketed it that well, it's like just cold calling people. Oh yeah, we're a Nashville touring band. We've been, because in the music industry, especially around here, if you throw out the name, I'm a Nashville recording artist, man, people just seem to like just jump all over it. And I mean, it's the thing is everybody wants to be a Nashville recording artist, right? And so it was really funny. So anyway, my buddy and I, we did the same thing prior to this. We showed up one night. We called a guy when we had a guy called Doug Kirby. He was a guitar player, and he just passed away this past year. He had some medical complications. Super good guy, really good guitar player, and I always remember him by one of his favorite songs. He always played was "Ice Cream Man," which was by Van Halen. He just every time I don't know why it was one of his favorite songs he played. But anyway, we showed up to this place in Mount Sterling. We had no clue what we're going to play. No clue. We just show up. Hey, yeah, we're here with the band, and we set up our stuff. We go outside, and we're like, what are we going to call this band? Like, who are we? So we're sitting there talking. We're just sitting there drinking a beer, waiting, to go on. I'm like, I don't know what we're going to call this thing. We're just joking around. I was like, we're just a bunch of wild cards, I guess. So it stuck from there, wild card. And so the wild card band started out as a 3-piece, like, I don't know what in the hell we're going to play. We just throw songs out. We'll see if we can get through them. Turned into what we are now, which we're now it's more of a, like a machine of, we know what we're doing. We have these sets. We're legitimately about booking. We are, you
guys are cohesive.
Yeah, we had we wrote a song about I guess about 5 or 6 years ago. The singer we had in there, Rob Ward, he was the primary person who wrote the song. We recorded the video for it. We had about 70,000 hits on this song in the video, and but it was probably, I guess that's our claim to fame. I guess was that video and that song. We had some airplay on it. We had some spins on the radio through Eastern Kentucky, but it was we were all police officers. What was the funny thing is, so our motto was, "It's all fun and games till the cops show up." So that was kind of our catchphrase, kind of thing, right? So now it's not, none of us are. I got one person left. Rob still works for the police department, and he's the only one that has like the crazy. It's still a crazy schedule. We were going to try to play last night, but he had his work schedule, and he had the work the Berea Christmas parade, and I do not miss that at all.
Right.
At all that craziness of that.
I'm going to send this to my father-in-law. My father-in-law, Justin, he just got promoted to detective.
Oh, yeah. He
was like, I'm going to retire soon, and then he gets promoted. So we don't know how much longer he's actually going to work.
Yeah.
But he plays guitar, too. Did he ever get in the band? Because it's her dad.
And he got a friend that he played with when he was younger.
Mm-hmm. I've heard him play. He's one hell of a guitarist.
Man, you don't really, you really don't know. Like when you're in that job, I mean, it's like, it's all that you really do. I mean, you know, like especially with family and stuff. I have 2 boys, you know, and between like working 40 hours a week and then we trained all the time, you know, I was our defensive tactics coordinator, so I taught our defensive tactics stuff to our officers. You know, between that, getting called in, you know, for stuff, having to work overtime, I mean, you just don't realize how much time you don't really have. I mean, you're like, oh yeah, I get 3 days off. Well, I mean, during that 3 days off, we'd have to go to court on Wednesdays or Thursdays, depending on what you had going on. So your 3 days turned into 2 days. Then, you know, it was, there's just so much time-consuming stuff. And then once you're out of it, you're like, oh my gosh, like how much time do I have? Like what do I do to fill this time? And, you know, so it was just now I have this time, and I've got, I have to have, I have to have something going on because my brain just doesn't work in just sitting in quiet. You know, I've got to have, you know, something going on over here. I've got to have something going on over here. My mind just won't let me be calm unless I just sit and do some meditation and try to, you know, just take a break to go through that stuff. And it was, I had a couple weeks ago, I went to go have some ADD testing for adult. So I have PTSD from my work and stuff, so probably one of the reasons why I left. And so what I didn't know was like PTSD comes with a component of, or can come with a component of ADHD. So, but if you had ADHD as a child, which back in my day, nobody knew what the hell ADHD was. They thought that was a kid being out of control. They was going to beat the shit out of them until they do what their parent wants them to do. So my dad always suspected I had something like that, but never did. We didn't know what it was because I just couldn't, you know, sit still. I have to get up and move around, and, you know, I had to do something. So now they sent me I went to the VA where I was a veteran. I used VA hospital, so I went to the VA to have testing done. Well, man, this is like the most nerve-wracking shit ever. You sit in this room, and there's a, you know, clinician over here, and they got these barrage of tests, right? So I'm sitting there, and this room is so quiet, and nothing's going on. It's super quiet, and you're just like, oh my God, I just can't.
They didn't even play elevator music for
No,
us.
I said, I'm sitting there, and I'm just like, I can't handle this. This is driving me crazy. So, and they give you these tests and it's stuff that doesn't make any sense at all. You know, they give you this piece of paper and there was like these 4 blocks and the different colors, and they give you these papers and they're like, okay, match the blocks to the colors and the design. So you're like putting the stuff together. At the same time, they're asking these other questions about stuff, and you're just, you know, you're kind of bouncing back and forth. And towards the end of the test, I'm like, can we not put some music on? Can we, like, you know, can you have somebody screaming at me through the door? I mean, can you do something? Because I can't take this quiet. Like, I just drive me crazy. So that was my ADD kicking in with my overstimulation of life for the last, you know, 20 years or whatever. But that was but it was a lot of fun. The test wasn't fun, but but it was interesting to see, like, how you know, the results. I'll get the results, I guess, back from the test in a couple of weeks, but I guess how crazy I really am. So I guess we'll figure it out.
So you just took the test?
Yeah, it was like this past Monday.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking like a few years ago.
Oh no, there's a lot of the stuff that things that I had over the years. I never got diagnosed or anything with it because I just, you know, man, when you're in that kind of work with the police stuff, it's you know, mental health stuff, man, is not really taken that seriously by departments and other people. You know, you're kind of taking it as a, you know, just kind of suck it up and go on kind of a culture, you know. And you know, a lot of people don't understand is if you go into police work with some baggage, mental health baggage, and you didn't resolve that mental health baggage before you went into this work, then you're getting a whole nother bag of mental health stuff, you know. And it's just, you know, the constant stimulation and the constant of always having to, you know, thinking 10 steps ahead of somebody. When you go into a call, your mind's already trying to think about, well, should be thinking about, okay, if this happens, I can do this. If this happens, I can go to this. If I can do this. So you're planning ahead. That's like I used to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I used to compete in tournaments and stuff. So it's like a chess game, right? So you're chess, and you're just trying to figure out how to move in case it's a backup plan for a backup plan. Right. And it's just over the past years, man, it's just been, my mental health just kind of got to where I couldn't, you can only see so many dead bodies and so many, so many bad situations, and your brain just starts, if you don't resolve that stuff at that moment, then it just becomes more crap, and it just piles and piles and piles on.
Yeah. I can say, hey, can you grab my tea? I didn't really get the chance to finish it. I thought you was going to finish it, but you didn't. But what I can, thank you. Thank you.
So you're welcome.
The thing I can say about that is coming from the place, like I didn't work, obviously I was not going to become a cop. Even though my father-in-law keeps trying to get me, he's like, look, if I take you to my chief, he'll sign you up immediately. I'm like, I'm not going back to Murray, Kentucky to become a cop. But growing up, I came from one of those war zone gang areas.
Where are you from?
Well, I'm from, it's kind of hard to explain. So I was born in Tennessee, moved to Kentucky, and then we moved to Virginia, and then, well, I guess the statute of limitations are up for this. My mom was running drugs from Virginia to New York and back. So there's a place that I was there for a while called Churchill, Virginia, notorious for both gangs being there at the same time.
Well, which
Crips
gang?
and Bloods.
Okay.
And then the cops would show up. So after all the shooting and people running and bullets going through the door and bullets going through the windows and then random kids dying, you see all that. It's something I realized later on that I just kind of pushed down, because while you're in it, you're just trying to run and duck and hope you didn't get hit.
Right.
Or your mom didn't get hit.
Right.
The closest someone got hit to us was bullet hit them in the foot. And then whenever I was a kid in the apartment, bullet went right over my head. Then the guy she was dating happened to grab me and throw me on the ground. And that was the everyday. So after moving away, I didn't realize that I had any baggage with me. I realized I was getting colder for no reason. Some of the joy I had as a kid was kind of gone.
Yeah.
So it's something you have to resolve. So I started, weirdly enough, meditating and playing football and working on the farm. I wouldn't say it cured me, it helped, but then I had to realize that I actually had something I had to deal with, so.
What did you play? What was your position in football?
Oh man, we were a small school, so I had to play everything. I had to fill in. I had to play everything but quarterback and wide receiver.
Defense?
I had to play defense and offense.
Was you a right tackle or a left tackle?
I was right tackle. If we had to run the ball in the middle, I was right guard.
Yeah.
On the other side, I was nose guard. I was a linebacker. And then one play, I had to play safety. And as big as I am, playing safety was not great.
So coming from, I'm going to tell you a theory I have about, so I didn't grow up in any kind of inner city gangs like that, but, I grew up, Eastern Kentucky, man, I grew up poor, back and forth between families. There was some bad situations between, some abuse with my stepfather to me and stuff, the situation I was put in. So when you started playing football, did you notice that you felt that you were more aware of things on the field? Like you were able to slow stuff down in your mind to where that you were able to see things at a faster rate than anybody else could see them.
That's what I've tried to explain. I was able to see 5 steps ahead.
You know why, right?
I don't know why.
So it's because that when you're growing up, you are conditioned by your environment to always be on this edge of like, I've got to. It's self-preservation. You're all the time looking, seeing, like, you have developed this thing, they call it a what's your limbic system or something, where your mind is all the time at a high, right? So you have like a high and a low, and then you have like an in between. And so your hormones and your everything is you're up here. So like even like right now, if you're walking down the road somewhere, you're like
all the time,
right? So you go into a restaurant, like you sit down, you're just like
all the exits,
right?
All the people.
That's because you were conditioned as a kid. And there was a book called Left of Bank that I can't remember who wrote the book. It's like this guy was a scout sniper. He talks about that when people come into like the military or people that play like sports or like football or contact sports or do stuff like this, that they are they're better at sensing their senses are heightened more because as a child or whether they're conditioned to look for this stuff. There's things nobody else would ever notice. Like I walk outside. I walk into or whatever. I can tell you how many people are left-handed, how many people are right-handed. How many people have these guns on their hips that they're wearing shorts with a paddleback holster, and I'll get into that. It's like a whole other issue with me. But if you listen to this and you wear shorts and you have a paddleback holster on a pair of shorts, please don't be that idiot. Please, just go ahead and just don't do that. Anyway.
I work with a guy with that.
Yeah, they're idiots, man. They're complete idiots. And so anyway, but it's you just develop this. It's like I don't want to call it a superpower, but it's like you are more aware of things than anybody else. Like than Timmy that lived with his parents that are perfect, and he had his perfect life, and there was never been into a fight his entire life. He never had 1 ounce of like any kind of mommy and daddy were always good to him. His family was always good. He never had like any kind of hardships or anything like that. Yeah. So. And this is stuff that we have, but it can't be learned. It's just something that you're conditioned to have. Yeah. Boxers in the ring, or also boxers over the years, or even MMA guys or contact sports. You do this for so long, you're conditioned, your brain. So like when you go to, when you're into some kind of situation that's stressful, your body's like, it's like you're playing things in slow motion in your mind while everybody else is in real time. So you're able to boxers. And I use this analogy a lot when I used to teach people for the police department was, it's like they call it controlling aggression, turn on, turn off aggression, and in the police world, unfortunately, there's a lot of that people don't understand how to do, how to utilize aggression. So playing football, people that wrestle, people that are military, who are like say highly trained SEALs or whatever, Rangers, they understand how to use aggression to their behalf and to use to their advantage, right? People in the police world, new recruits, people that's never been this stuff or whatever, you take it just even out in the police world, people that are just start playing football that's never had. I use football a lot because it's a contact sport and it requires a lot. Or wrestling the same way. You have to understand how to control your aggression. If you don't, then it just gets out of control. It's just like you're a rage monster, right? But that's what separates. That's why that you are. And I'm sure there's some kind of big clinical name for this stuff that I don't know. I'm not a psychologist or anything, but I just know over the years of teaching people and just over the years of just understanding reading books, that's kind of where that comes from. Yeah. That's the reason why that you're able to do that. Same way.
Yeah, I've always I've been a fan of history, neurology, and psychology, and they believe, we believe now that there is a theory of the way the brain evolved in the first place was to be able to spot snakes because they were our primary, I almost said primary consumer, but they were always trying to kill basically monkeys in that. Not monkeys, apes in that particular part of the Sahara. Mm-hmm. So whenever the trees basically died off in this area, the monkeys or the apes that were swinging from branch to branch were now on the ground, right, which made them prey for these snakes, these giant snakes. So they think that our brain evolved to be able to spot snakes in grass and far away. That's why our eyesight evolved as well. For eyesight to evolve, you need a bigger brain. So I've always thought of it as whatever it was in my brain was the way our primitive ancestors were, because that's the way they had to be. So when you're born into this life, that part of the brain it either never develops or you have no use for it for most parts. Whenever you have a use for it, it's permanent now. Mm-hmm. So that's why I always thought is I'm probably like my weird ancestors who had to run and hunt mammoths all the time and evade snakes. So,
You know, there's two things. There's two fears that every human being is born with. There's two fears. One is the fear of falling, and the two is loud noises. We are all born with that. Everybody's born with that same condition. It's genetic. I guess it's whatever, some kind of genetic thing that we're all born with. But yeah, you take the there's so many different directions you can go with, like the hunter gatherer, what you're talking about, right?
Right.
You start getting into people that are. Start talking about the way that we're supposed to eat, right? So there's so many different ways you start talking about this stuff, and there's paleo diets and hunter-gatherer diets, and man, I'm one of these people where that if something I'm interested in, I'm like, oh yeah, let's see how far we can figure this out.
Right, me too.
And it's just part of my my OCD. People, that's part of I have OCD, but my OCD is not like, there's different forms of OCD or different components of it. Mine is not, things have to be in certain order, which it does to a point, but mine is like, I'm super compulsive about things, and like I want to start growing my own coffee, so it starts out, well, like basic beans, I'll just get these beans and I'll start brewing my own coffee. Then it's like, well, I wonder if I do this to it, like how do I do that? So I start reading, I can do this right here with it. Well, how can I get it to this other point? How can I do this? How can I do this process of it? Okay, so let's read this right here. So, a $50 hobby that started out something easy is now a room full of parts and things, and it's like an Amazon guy was like, oh God, here's another thing, So, but I mean, it's just it's kind of it's crazy how fast that I get into stuff,
Yeah. I think I need to go get tested, because that's what things turn out. Like this right here, this was not the beginning product.
Right.
It was like, all right, well, I got this mixer, but I need 4 ports. Let me go get a 4-port. Well, I like these microphones. They don't really work for my computer. Well, let me get all these other microphones.
Right.
And you should have heard the plans I had later on for this podcast. And I don't even have a lot of money for a studio, but hell, I'm going to buy one anyway.
Yeah.
Just so I can make my podcast look the way I want it to look.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the way I kind of started out. Mine was, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to Joe Rogan and a bunch of stuff like that. And so just and I just one day I was like, I have a lot of friends and a lot of musician friends, and I have a lot of road stories from playing music, and so it's kind of how it started. So my base was the Kentucky Coffee House, and I think I wanted to call it the Kentucky Bourbon House, what I wanted to call it, but I didn't want to, my brain was, okay, if this kind of somehow takes off, there's the chances 1 in 500 it might take off, and I thought, well, if I call it the Bourbon House, and what if I just had this idea, we're having a conversation. We could try different bourbons. We're talking about drinking bourbon, so we're drinking bourbon on set. Then it turns into we just somehow accidentally get drunk on set from drinking bourbon. So I was like, well, that won't work out very well, So then I was like, well, we can just do coffee. So I like coffee, and so I had this coffee thing, and we were just making coffee and trying different coffees on set and just talking. It's kind of how it started out. So that worked out better than a bourbon, So, but yeah, it was just it starts from small things. I have a little 4-channel portable mixer that I can take it anywhere I want to go, and then I was like, how can I make I'm a huge black and white person. I like black and white photos.
I saw.
Yeah, I'm really into black and white, and I don't know how I got into black and white stuff. It's just, I don't know. I've always been really intrigued by black and white.
Did you watch a lot of old movies? Because Gone with the Wind was my thing.
Man, it really, that really wasn't it. I think what it was when I got into photography, I like color. I like things that are colored and vivid and things that kind of stick out. But then, I started just looking at black and white pictures, and there's a Canadian, which, it kind of starts back in this, but I do a lot of studio lighting and a lot of studio stuff. That's kind of what I'm known for, I guess, around here. Is everybody thinks all I do is shoot studio stuff, which, I do more than that. But so I got into doing studio lighting, and I started getting into black and white. So then I started, there's pictures that the way that you light pictures and the way that you light, I mean, like how that you set your lights up in studio, and there's more to it than just taking a picture and make it to black and white, because you have different tones and different shades of grays and colors. And what I figured out was you can purposefully make black and white things to go black and white. So there's a guy in Canada, his name is Nathan Elson. He's a Canadian photographer. So if you're a photographer, or even like you just like enjoy looking at pictures and stuff, Nathan Elson is probably one of my favorite black and white people that do black and white pictures. It's the way he does his photos and his lighting. But Nathan Elson kind of like, oh my God, I really like this. So I've been playing around with, different shades and different lighting for black and white pictures for probably for the last, I don't know, 2-3 years, I guess. So it's kind of become my thing, is like, if I can make it to a black and white picture, I'm going to purposely try to make it to black and white. But everything I said, I like color pictures too, but my personal taste is I like things in black and white.
Yeah, there's something classy about it, though.
It is. It's a very, you strip all the color out of a picture, and you have black and white. It says something different to you. Yeah. It's got a whole different meaning behind it,
Yeah, I mean, you look at Scarface cover.
Oh yeah.
If it was colored, I mean, I think it has that splash of red.
Yeah.
Something. If you add color to that, it's not nearly as magical as Scarface.
Yeah.
But that black and white and half his body cover, it's just so cool.
Yeah.
It's the coolest thing you could really do, especially if you're shooting something that's a little older.
Yeah.
I think it's supposed to take place in the 70s or 60s, Scarface, and that's past the point of having color. But for some reason, you add that black and white. It's just, and then if they ever do it, it's always a splash of red, and it's the coolest thing you can do.
Yeah, they call it what do they call that? Adaptive or selective coloring or something like that. But yeah, it's I've always liked. Like I said, since I've been into photography, which started out the same way. Hey, I'm gonna buy a camera. I'm just gonna, like I always enjoyed it as a kid, taking pictures of my friends that were in bands or whatever. But when I got older, I was like, I'm gonna get back into doing some photography. So it started out as I'm gonna buy this camera out here. I'm just gonna start playing around with it. Then I would go take pictures of bands and live performances, and then I wish I could really how other people that were photographers, like how did you get that picture to be so clear like that? Well, I got this lens and I had this. Like, oh, okay. So then there's a theory behind it, like it's like anything, it could be a musician or whatever, so you start out with basic gear and you get good enough with it, and it's good enough. I mean, it will get you, I mean, you start to have to ask yourself, do I really need anything more? Like,
Right.
It's going to get me to point A to point B. It does the job or whatever. Well, then you start getting into like, okay, I want this to be a little bit more clear, right? So you should get in for you. So you go from, a $400 point and shoot camera or whatever to a $3,000 camera and a $2,000 lens, and you're like, holy crap! like I really can see the difference in it,
Yeah.
But then, but you have to ask yourself, do I personally need to have that? Is there a need for it?
Yeah. The answer is always yes.
Yeah, it's always yes. Yeah, always yes. Yeah.
Which is what that webcam was today.
Yeah.
I just bought that. Actually, I bought one before that was very expensive, but only worked with like Mac. And that's a Chromebook.
Yeah.
And I don't have a separate sound card because, like you're saying, like it works just fine.
Right.
That right there I was lucky. Black Friday came around because it's more than my webcam I have anyway, even with the sale. But I was like, I gotta have it. It looks so good. And it's gonna be part of the live switching I was telling you guys about. So as soon as we get actually one other camera, we'll start live switching that sucker. And it's that damn Joe Rogan podcast, man. Because I always looking at it and I'm like, I just wanted it to be as good as that.
Right.
And but Joe Rogan has unlimited money.
Oh yeah, and that's and it's easy, man, to do what you want to do with, like on a budget kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Like I have, I bought a GoPro camera, like a GoPro 10, and I didn't realize I had a GoPro back years ago, like a GoPro 3 or whatever. It's like one of the earlier GoPros. It was a couple $100, And now it's like, well, since I got back into music, I kind of I'm trying to figure out how I can, on my YouTube channel, how that I can incorporate music with my photography, but make it kind of interesting, right? So I'm trying to figure out how to incorporate the two of both together, live performances and stuff like that, kind of what I'm kind of going towards. But, so I bought that GoPro camera, and it was like, GoPro 10 was $600 for this camera. I'm like, holy shit, man, for a GoPro camera? Really? But then you look at it, and thing shoots in 4K. I mean, it's just ridiculous for this little small camera. And so I've been using it, to just, I stick it on like a cymbal stand, and I'll record, drum stuff, and then so here, this is where this thing goes, right? So I was like, okay, so there's a friend of mine has some professional friends who are musicians. Some people play for like big name people, so, and I watched their drum cameras. I'm like, how are they getting that kind of sound? How are they doing that? So then, like, oh man, I got this thing called an iRig, right? So the iRig, and I'm like, oh, okay. So $99 iRig thing, it goes from like from like a mic cable into this thing, and it goes from the mic cable. It converts it to like you can plug a little 1/4-inch plug goes into your mic, like a camera, right?
Yeah.
So then I was like, so then I bought one of those. So now the sound is like, oh my gosh, it's crazy, like how much difference it is, So you get like every microphone that's everything is mic'd. You get the entire mix that's coming through. So that's where I'm at with that now.
And when it actually works, it makes you so damn happy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because man, you get a lot of stuff and it just doesn't work. You're like, I don't know why.
Yeah.
And shoot, man, just a lot of. And the thing that I realized is that your audience is really forgiving.
Oh yeah.
You start with the grainiest stuff, and there will always be someone that's willing to watch it.
Well, I mean, you take these TikTok people, dude. I mean, they're just recording this stuff on a cell phone.
Yeah.
And they got how many followers, man? They're making a killing. Like, there's this girl I work with. She's not even a model. Like, she was just kind of interested in doing pictures. Well, she has like.
Hair, by the way.
Oh well, thank you. It's kind of crazy, right? So she has like 97,000 TikTok followers. And you know how she got these people? It's a cat. She has a white cat that all she does is film. Like, it's her like playing with this cat.
Yeah.
And she pays her rent on her apartment with this cat. Yeah. I'm like, how in the hell does this work? I mean, like, I spend hours, man, like hours putting content together. Like, making this like, a production. And she has a cell phone. And she records her cat. I'm like, are you flipping kidding me, man? Yeah. Like, man, there's companies that send her like treats for her cats, cat food.
Yep.
It's so stupid. And I'm like, how does it work out that way?
It's the dumbest thing, and I will sit there and watch it.
Yeah, and you're like, every time I open up TikTok, I feel like I'm getting ready to take this plunge into like, well, I need to, kind of stretch, and where's my drink? Because she turns into like 3 hours of like, holy crap, like I've been down this black hole of like just different things going on TikTok. You just you go down these different paths and you don't realize how long you've been doing it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, like every time, like, I'm always afraid to open it up. Like, well, here we go. Might as well get ready to.
That's what it's designed for too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
then everybody else is, since TikTok, the platform opened up, it's changed social media. Everybody's wanting to follow TikTok because everybody's. But it's like Instagram, right? Instagram has Reels. So, love and hate with me with Instagram. Like, it started out as a photographer's kind of forum, right? So, to post photos and everybody that's what it was for. Well, now, they want to be like TikTok. But what people don't understand is, like, nobody's ever going to be like TikTok. Because TikTok was, they started it that way. They grew it I think it started out like, what was the one before TikTok? The short videos, Vero.
There's two different. There was Vine, and then there was Musically.
Yeah,
Musically was TikTok before TikTok.
Yeah, so Vine was kind of like the I guess the father of the small video stuff, and you had people, man, that were Vine famous, and then TikTok came along, and then they switched over to TikTok. Even like, and you have YouTube. YouTube's trying to do the short things too. They've even trying to start offering, creators, like if you get so many hits on a YouTube, like a real, I forgot what they call it, the little short video stuff, then they'll pay you for it.
Oh, did you get that email too?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
And
I was like, I'm not doing that.
yeah, I never done it. But, you know, and it's extremely hard, man, to get, like I feel like if you are a content creator and you're really trying to create some content that's, you know, that's good stuff, you know, like it's useful, and I make the joke of all the time, like if I could have a degree in YouTube, like I would have had a degree. I mean, because so much stuff I've learned off YouTube. You know, it's just I feel like the harder that you try to create content, good stuff, that it's impossible. Well, the same with Instagram. It's just you know, now that they're trying to be like reels, and they give you, when you post up on your Instagram page, it's a photo, it's, you know, that's like they kind of, they punish you for posting a picture. They want you to, you know, they give you high praises and more if you post like a reel or a video.
Right.
You know, and it's, so they're just trying to be like a TikTok, but it'll never be like, they'll never be TikTok, because it's just, you know, it's like how many people want to be like Michael Jordan. Well, there never will be a Michael Jordan, because that's Michael Jordan. You know, I don't care how good you ever are. I mean, there's LeBrons and Michael Jordans and, you know, all this, but it will never be him. Yeah. Same thing. It's like you can, you know, kind of follow the same path, but it'll never work out the same way. So, yeah, the Instagram, man, is like a love-hate thing for me. And I've been kind of playing around with, what's the app? It was out for a while, now it's called Vero or Vero.
Is it Vimeo?
It's, what's it called? Vero, right? So everybody's kind of switching over now to this Vero stuff. It's more like a photographer's kind of a thing.
Oh, okay.
So, and it's, you know, it's not algorithm based like Instagram. They don't punish you like Instagram does.
I've never heard of Vero.
Yeah, they started out a few years ago, and it's kind of the same time Instagram started up. Instagram kind of took off a little bit better. So now all your photographer content creators are now switching back over towards Vero, but you have people like Peter McKinnon, who is pushing. You know who Peter McKinnon is?
No, I was hoping you would.
Yeah, so well, Peter McKinnon, like on the Instagram world and YouTube world, is like he is blew up. Like he's just like the man. Like it's everything he touches is like gold. But he started out as just a basic, you know, a cheap camera content creator. So next time you're on YouTube, it's looking at Peter McKinnon. Okay. And so now, man, he's like a multi-million-dollar international world like content creator. Like everybody is like, what's Peter doing? So everybody kind of follows what he's doing. So now he's going towards the Vero thing, and he's taking all of his stuff from Instagram because he's a photographer. But he's also a videographer, right? But Instagram is trying to turn it into TikTok. So it's just a bunch of crap.
Do you have a Pinterest board?
I do have a Pinterest board, yeah. I do play with Pinterest.
Usually I use Pinterest for my book that I write. It's like a bunch of fantasy stuff I found on Pinterest, and then I just make a big board of it. So if anyone, it's going to be funny because if the book ever does anything and someone looks at my Pinterest, they'll see all my ideas from the beginning and how it ends up. But usually for my clients, I build them Pinterest boards. And we use it for their promotional content or anything they have coming up or items that, you know, that are in stock to see which ones are popular with people. So I get mostly businesses on there. And for my own personal use, I just jack around with it. Yeah,
I'll post stuff on Pinterest, like photos I'll take, you know, like if I have like behind the scenes stuff, I try to do a lot of behind the scenes stuff as I'm taking pictures, you know, kind of like somebody stand over my shoulder and I'll do like little small videos and, you know, because I mean, that's the way that I learned, you know, we mostly learned doing photography kind of starting out was videos and VR. It's kind of the same thing, you know, so I'll post, you know, like behind the scenes stuff, and because I get a lot of people in this area that send me messages and ask me questions about how I did this or how I did that, and so I just got into doing behind the scenes stuff, you know, just post this picture and I'll tag it and I'll post stuff in like these local photography groups, and you know, people starting out asking questions. I know how it was when I started out, you know, like I mean, man, you get these, this is really funny, like you get there's photographers that are around here that are just, you know, I can't tell you how I did that. Like, why? Like, why can't you tell me? It's not like it's like a you know, some kind of secret, you know, some kind of secret, you know, recipe or anything, you know. They're afraid that their ego is so big that they're like, I can't tell you that because what if you outdo me?
Right.
You know, or what if you steal my clients, or what if you make more money than me? Right. And I'm like, it doesn't work that way. You know, it's just everybody has their own client base. Everybody does things the way that they're going to do it, and it's just kind of how it is. You know, I mean, it's really weird.
That's what I've been explaining to my owners it doesn't work that way. Like, brand loyalty is a really big thing. You know? That's the reason why corporates become corporates, because they knew how to build that brand, that brand loyalty. That's why no matter how good your product is, they still have an inkling to go to Starbucks. Yeah. You know, they just can't help themselves, right?
Right.
You know, once you understand the way that the brain works when it comes to marketing, then you understand, like, there's going to be a base for your stuff as long as you put out good stuff. Right. And it's enough for everyone to eat. You know, I've been explaining to other marketing companies as we work together is, look, no one's going to come over to Career Marketing. You've been working with them for 5 years. You really think I'm out here trying to steal your client that you worked for years instead of just going to get a new client? Right. That's just not efficient. Right. You know, and it's enough people for us to be able to help. Right. And it's just this weird fear thing that I've never really had. But they do.
And you look at it from this too, is like you have, local marketing, local, home business, like Kentucky based local area businesses, and you have corporate business, right? People are more want to support local businesses, but it's just how it's marketed and how it's put out there. Right. Same thing with musicians and local musicians and how that stuff kind of starts out. They people, it's really weird. People are more, they want to have the experience that they would have going to a big show, right? So that's why that, like when I make this joke all the time, like when you have Luke Bryant, he's a country music singer, big truck. Yeah, so he comes to town, people, and you have your younger crowds and your generation of Luke Bryant's here. We're going to go to a Luke Bryant concert. So let's drive my big truck. Let me get my Luke Bryant girl, like the big hats, boots, summer dresses, and this is kind of like they have a formula. Like we have to go to a Luke Bryant concert dressed like we just come out of out of a country store. But they want that experience, and a lot of your local bands and stuff, they miss out on that part of, and even like local stores, right, boutiques, whatever. It's just the same thing. They want big box experiences, but they want it to be your local brands, and I use bands because I don't really have a whole lot of experience with a big businesses, local areas, and whatever what that is. But it's like even my photography business, same thing. Is like people want that big. They want that big experience, but they want it. Your local people are missing out on that because they're not trying to. They want to keep it a home feeling, but if you look like garbage and you look like you half-ass something, man, it's just that people are going to think it's half-ass. Right. And it's it's just the way that it's just the marketing thing, the way your people's brains work and how that they how that business stuff is. Right. And bands show up, man, and they your singer stands up there and they just do this and they never move off their set and they just sing, and people stand on stage and they're just they show up wearing ratty ass looking clothes, and they're just they're all the time fighting their equipment because the shit doesn't work half the time.
How many times have you dealt with this, man?
Oh, dude, that's what I'm saying. Like, I was notoriously known as the Nazi because you show up on stage and, man, you're just like, my every day before a show, like my text would go out, hey guys, let's have a good show tonight. Don't show up to the show wearing, like this. There's a guy named Ken Messer. I love Ken. He's my bass player. Ken always want to wear these flame shirts to shows, like these, like this 80s flaming shirts. And I can show you the message. Like, we did band pictures about a month ago, and I was like, Ken, please don't wear your flaming shirts. And because I'm just, I just don't, I'm just not that. And so, wear, some, black shirts or some cut off, some t-shirts, whatever, you wear your hats, whatever. I was like, just don't wear your flaming shirt. But I was particular for, if you show up on stage and you look like a musician and you look like you're going to play and you're there to give that experience, then, people are more, kind of, are more susceptible to want to come and experience that than it's just the way that you look and appear,
Yeah.
I'm really big on appearance, really big.
I see that. The thing, though, that has been probably the hardest thing to explain is you can look at a formula and see that it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Like, believe it or not, I built my company off Walmart. I'm not going to go and do exactly what Walmart does.
Mm-hmm.
But what I did was look at their process and learn. I was like, okay, so this is how they got to point A to point B, and it worked for them. How do I build career marketing to be career marketing? When you see it, you got a certain feeling of how it's going to be.
Right.
You don't have mixed feelings. Is this going to be like the marketing company I work with? You should have one feeling for whenever you see my brand. And that is the brand loyalty, the brand identity that you hear so much. Most of the problems come when, like what you're saying, if there's a band that's popular and you know that they're popular, and some people in this area are big fans of that band, so you kind of switch over a little bit to what they do.
Right.
Instead of saying, okay, we'll bite the bullet because it's going to be painful. There's some people that's going to leave because they just want to see what that band does.
Right.
But the people who will get used to seeing your band and you have a particular thing that you do.
Right.
And it's not like being stale, doing the same thing every time. But it's like, this is our sound. Right. Every band has a sound. You turn on Queen, it's Freddie Mercury.
Right.
So, you build that. That's how it works. If you do it a different way, and you stand up there and you half-ass it, like part of it is your brand, but 75% of it is Van Halen.
Right.
It's not going to work out.
Right.
People want to see Van Halen because that's the real product.
Right.
So that's the hardest thing I've had to explain.
Yeah, and like you have, there's a few bands in this area, man, that are really good about what they do. It's like you have one that's, there's a guy named Tim Hellard who has a band called Rock of Ages, and you can look them up, man, and they have a big production. They're an 80s cover band, but they're a damn good 80s cover band. They put on a really good show.
That's a cool name, too.
Yeah, Rock of Ages. Yeah, and they put on a really good show. And it is because that they show up and they're there to play and they're there to put on it. They're there to give people a show. And it's just, the same way with, with like photography or like, you're building your brand off of you and how you put your stuff out. It's just, if you're putting out really crappy stuff and it's just, it's just the way things, it's just, you want to give people that experience, and if they don't get that experience, then they're just, they're going to go to other things and do other stuff.
Right. And when it comes to the crappy experience, sometimes it's just people being new.
Yeah.
And it's the difference between being new and just being crappy.
Right.
If you're crappy, you know it.
Yeah. And it's just like, you get out of something what you put into it. And like, come here, like I offer like in the wintertime, which was one thing that got me into doing studio photography, was I hate cold weather, dude. Like, I don't like being cold, I don't like being wet, and we can thank the United States Army for that, most of that, because I really don't like being cold and I don't like being wet. So come wintertime, photography usually slows down because of with most people are outside shooters. They use natural light, and they just that's the only place they can shoot at. When I say shoot, I don't mean shoot, I mean shoot. Right. So I need to make sure I clarify. Well, if you hear me say the word shoot, I don't mean like I'm shooting that person again. We're saying taking pictures, right? So what's funny, like on Facebook, if you put the word shooting, I'm shooting someone, Facebook they'll catch it and they'll be like,
yeah, I've dealt with Facebook.
So anyway, but yeah, it's they're all natural light shooters. They're, whatever light that they have to go outside. So I hated dealing with like cold weather. So I got into doing studio photography, and but I teach classes, like I'll, teach small how to get into doing this stuff. But like I said, you put into something, you're getting out of it. So I'll run these photography groups, and people all the time are like asking questions about, lighting and how to do this or do that. And you can only answer so many questions, about, it'd be the same thing about marketing. Like you can only answer so many questions without, listen, come here, let me show you how this is done.
Right.
And like I usually offer like a, 1 hour basic intro to lighting class, 2 hours, like $50 is what I usually market it for. And it's people, man, they don't want to put the money into it, and it's just they want to figure this stuff out themselves, which I applaud them for that. I mean, I did the same thing, but you can only do so much, with your own, the way that you kind of come to a point where, where do I go from here? Right. So, but you put into it what you're going to get out of it, and if you're, come January after the new year, you're going to see a whole new, probably 100 new photographers. Everybody's got a new camera. They want to start taking pictures. They're going to be professionals, and they're going to start offering family photos, and it's how it's going to work. Then about 3 months into it, you're going to see a big flood of like, hey, I've got a camera for sale. It happens every year. I mean, it happens every year, and it's just because that, people get to a point where they get frustrated and they don't understand how to, they don't understand the craft of it. And it's just more than, there's more to it than just taking a picture. There's more to it than just, saying, or marketing kind of thing, right? There's a lot that goes into it. But unless you're willing to put that work into it, you're not going to get, it's like, what's that one saying, the juice is worth the squeeze, right?
The juice is worth the squeeze, yeah.
Right, so if you're going to, if it's something that you're passionate about and you want to put time into it, then you're going to reap the benefits of what you're putting into it. Right. I can't tell you the countless hours of time I've put into like photography stuff or like musical stuff or trying to learn things. And photography, man, is like a rabbit hole of things. Like you start out one thing and it goes and it's just goes and goes and goes and goes, and it's just, you get into what you put out of it. So one of those deals like that.
I mean, the way I say it, because I feel what you're talking about is, you see the mountaintop, but you don't see the bottom.
Yeah.
And what I tell my owners, before they come with me, I'm like, how many hours have you spent reading a Facebook policy update? Mm-hmm. How many times have you studied the algorithm? Because that's what I have to do all day long, to get to where I am in marketing, to understand what I'm talking about, just so you don't have to do it.
Right.
If you want to sit there and study the whole algorithm and catch up on every policy update that they put out every 3 days, it seems, go ahead. But once you see that, you start selling your camera 3 months later.
Right. Yeah.
That's really what it is. So
yeah, it's a service that you're providing that what some business owners don't understand is like how much time and how much money could they free up, by them trying to study that stuff, and how much does that person understand that, So, it's just time versus money. So how much time do you want to spend, or how much time could you let this other person just do this for you anyway? You're going to save time and money, So it's just people don't understand is I'll throw my prices out for like photography stuff, right? So let's say I'm going to use people that sell realtors, right? So I'm trying to go through realtor school. I'm trying to get my license to sell houses, but I'm going to use realtors, right? So. Or even like some people like doctor's offices or dentist offices where they want to have websites, and they have to, they want to have a website people can go to. And they put their headshots, right? So there's so many bad headshots, and they're so bad. And what they don't understand is like if you're a realtor, right? Realtors are selling themselves. They want people to come to them to sell their houses. But man, if you have like a really, really, really bad headshot, and you just don't want to spend, $100 on a good one, I don't understand that. Like, it does not fathom. Like, it doesn't register to me at all. I mean, it's like if you're trying to market yourself and you're selling yourself, why not put just a little bit of money into it?
Right.
Like, why are you going to put up a really crappy cell phone picture that is just like, it looks like, like a bag of ass. Like, why would you do it? And it's just it's so bad.
Especially if you're in sales.
Yes, I don't understand. And then you have like these doctor's offices or dentist offices that that they put their pictures up on, and they just somebody in the office like, oh yeah, I've got an iPhone, I can take your picture that way. And it's so bad. And especially in today's world of digital marketing and social media and stuff, I mean, if it's just how you put yourself out there, it's just it's so fun. Like my profile picture for my Facebook is, I didn't just take a selfie. Like, I set up a $3,000 camera, and like I'm taking selfie pictures of myself. But I mean, it's a high resolution picture. I can't do it. And I don't know why. Like, it's just my brain won't let me. My brain won't let me do it. My kids come home one day with some really crappy, school pictures. I'm like, no, dog,
Those are the worst.
It ain't gonna work, man. That ain't gonna work. So, I mean, I'll still buy the pictures. We'll still buy the pictures. But my kids, if they ever wanted to go into modeling, they would have a very extensive portfolio of like very good pictures. It's just, I just can't do it.
The worst thing, to make that even worse, because school pictures are always terrible.
Oh, yeah.
And then my mom, who didn't want to pay for it, would take another photo with that like 2008 camera.
Oh, yeah.
To post it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I look back at these photos, and they're just, you can't even tell it's me sometimes.
Yeah. Well, now it's like when I do pictures, like if I do headshots, so I put a watermarker, so people will screenshot stuff now, right? Mm-hmm. So I did some prom pictures one year, and the same thing. Like, I knew parents would screenshot the stuff and they wouldn't, right? So my watermark that I had across the picture was, I stole this picture. I stole this picture, and people were still screenshotting it, and I was like, really? I mean, the people just didn't care, but. No matter,
put it above like their
face. I put it right across the middle of it, and like in big block letters, I stole this photo, and they still did it, but it was rather funny.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, my family's really bad about stuff like that.
Yeah,
I mean, the $20 she'll spend like $400 on a wig, but like a $20 photo, no.
Yeah.
Taking the photo of that sucker and posting it on Facebook.
Yeah.
With the watermark too.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's just that you're realtors or doctors, and people that are just trying to market themselves in their business. Like, I never understood it, but they want to save money here to.
Man, it's my world. Trust me.
Yeah.
You don't understand it. I don't understand it either.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many people. They're just like, yeah, marketing. So I get two responses when I tell people I own a marketing company. Mm-hmm. One is nervous, okay, which is whenever I say, oh yeah, because they always ask me, what do you do? Mm-hmm. I say, I own a marketing company, and they say, oh well, I do my own marketing.
Right.
I wasn't going to sell you.
Right.
I'm only here to get coffee.
Right.
You sell coffee. I'm just buying coffee today.
Yeah.
And then the other response is like, oh yeah, that stuff is important. We need marketing. Get my business card, follow up with those guys, nothing. Shut down 3 months later. Mm-hmm. It's crazy how much business owners will try to cherry pick things and get over on things. But if you just did it right, I promise you'd be Starbucks in 10 years.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do.
And that's what I tell people too, is like, new people get into like I've kind of done the same thing, like branding for people, so, but I don't have a marketing company, so people they'll come to me to do branding photos, and to help with like social media stuff,
Photography is marketing.
Yeah, but and my thing is like, don't think of it as going to be, you're getting into it for the long haul, like you have to at least put a couple, you bank on a couple years. Right. Like we're talking like strong postings or content creations or whatever you're doing. Don't think of it as like, I'm going to be, it's going to happen in 3 months from now. Think of it like, a year from now that you're trying to build a brand, and you're trying to build a base. Like you're building a house, right? So you have to have a good foundation. Then from there, everything else kind of will fall into place of it. But it takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
Especially, like I said, in today's markets of social media and everything else, it takes time, it takes work. And some people they just don't want to, they don't put the work into it.
Yeah, I mean, the best thing I ever did was go to a consultant before I even started.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, part of what I do is consultancy, and I went to a consultant. So
Right.
if I do it, you should probably do it. You know,
Yeah.
because a lot of a business failing starts in the beginning.
Right.
You know, if you don't plan ahead, even I like to plan ahead 5 years. You know, what should things look like 5 years? Yeah, because success isn't linear.
Right.
You know, it goes zigzag, right? So, you know, in a year it could zigzag all over the place.
Right.
But in the 5 year span, what steps can we take to get there? It will surprise you that most business owners I talk to had no idea what they're going to do before they started. They had no idea where they wanted to
Oh,
go.
yeah, no business plan.
No business plan.
Yeah.
And they secured the loan and got going.
Yeah.
And, you know, a few months in or a year in, they're like, what are we doing? And I'm like, what did you think about when you started? I was like, nothing.
Yeah.
How? You know, how did you think about, how do you even get started? Because before
Right.
I started a business, if I didn't go to my CPA, I would have had no idea
Right.
what to do. You know, so I'm like, how did you even get started?
Right.
And it's those little, not really little steps, it's the big steps beforehand, like that seem small,
Right.
that make or break your business
Right.
or project.
Yeah, and it will, stuff like that definitely just takes time to build stuff like that, and people are they want success overnight, and they just don't want to put the
Yeah.
work into it.
I mean, I do too. I want success
Yeah.
overnight, but I put in the work because I know one day success will come overnight.
Right.
So
Yeah, but you can't really expect, to be an overnight sensation.
Right.
It's you have to kind of, plan that stuff ahead and think about the long haul with the whole thing. And it's it's a funny thing. And it, like you talked about, you worked with a consultant, like to learn from another consultant, right? So I get a lot of people that I work with a lot of models, like I do a lot of model work, portfolio work and stuff. So I have a strong base, but I do family stuff, family pictures, stuff like that too. But somebody in one of these groups one of these photographer groups posted, they wanted to get into their niece or cousin wants to get into modeling. She wants him to help her with her portfolio, and he was asking for, what kind of poses can I do? So that's the two things that people struggle with the most is angles and posing with people. Right. So, but you can't. This pose may not work with this person here because it's not a cookie cutter kind of thing. Everybody's body shapes are different. So my advice in the group was, and this is something that I did that I learned a lot from it, was I hired a professional model. And I sat down with her, and it was, I want you to teach me, like, what works. Like, you tell me what camera angles work for, back and forth. I mean, all I did was, she taught me, like, do from this angle, this is how that and I mean, not like somebody that says a professional. Like, I mean, I paid a lot of money for a real model to come in, that she was an accomplished person. She, and we did 2 or 3 sessions like this. But I learned more off of her, just her teaching me how to do this. She was teaching me, like, the camera angles and what poses worked and what did this or what did that. So give this guy the same advice, right? I said, this is what I did. This is the best advice that I can give you. It's good to play around, take pictures of your cousin and stuff, but if she's serious about getting into modeling, or if you're serious about this, then this is the path that you need to kind of start off with. Somebody posts like 3 pictures down or whatever, like, I do this concept of like this, and this is my, modeling and stuff like that. And they started posting these pictures, and they were so bad. I mean, it was so terrible. And I remember I screenshot this and I sent it to a friend of mine. I was like, he goes, yeah, that's terrible. And so he said, your advice was sound. I said, that's what I would have done. But man, people just don't pay attention. They think that, the experience that somebody has, and they just don't want to. They just don't want to spend just a little bit of time, a little bit of money on some other things, and they just, they develop bad habits, and they don't get out of those habits, and those bad habits follow them down the road, and it's funny.
It is funny. That's one thing I have to do is constantly teach reinvestment into your company, if you're trying to buy a Corvette immediately, instead of saying, oh, well, let me reinvest, let me get a much better camera first.
Right.
That's already a red flag.
Yeah.
Your photo's going to turn into shit.
Yeah, and that's one thing. Like I worked. There's an app called Thumbtack. So when I started like charging people for pictures, right? So I found Thumbtack, and Thumbtack is like people that were, and I still use it today, like just for like quick kind of turnaround stuff. So people would get on there, like say that you need drywall done, right? So I get on Thumbtack and drywall. So I need to find the cheapest person that's going to do the drywall job. So what I was doing, the same thing, like I was just doing, photo shoots, but I was doing, really cheap ones. So I would take, say I charged $100. I was using a really beginner's camera when I started this. Like I was a really, really beginner's camera. I would take $50 from that and I'd put it into an account. So I would take $20 from this one. So I went to Murphy's Camera, which is in Lexington, and I put a used camera in layaway, like a better camera in layaway. So I would take that money and I bought that better camera, the used camera. Right? So I bought that one. I used that camera until it finally died. But the same thing, like I was taking money and I was investing in, like this time I had a new camera I was putting layaway. So I just kind of started upping my camera, and I've given that advice, man, to like I don't know how many people. Like, like how can I get a better camera? Like, how can I do this, do that? Like, well, I mean, if you want to start taking pictures of people, charge them $50. Take $25 and put a camera in layaway. Just do it that way. And sometimes people think them, sometimes people don't do it. So
I mean, you reinvest your time too.
Yeah.
You reinvest your time into doing this.
Yeah.
More than I'm sure vacationing.
Right.
You reinvest constantly into how do I make this better?
Right.
Because I mean, especially if you're providing a service.
Right.
People are going to have the service and they pay for the service, right? If you didn't reinvest into yourself,
right,
that's not investing time into them.
Yeah.
And that's a really big problem too.
Yeah. And it's I think I think where I slack the most is my website. Like I hate doing websites. I really suck at doing websites, and I just don't have the patience to do it. And my website is terrible. Like it's really bad. I thought about getting somebody on Fiverr, like pay them a couple $100, say here, fix just a Squarespace, was what I have. Mm-hmm. And I just don't. I hate fooling with websites. Like I don't like it at all. I don't like that stuff at all.
I know a guy that's really good. Like I don't like doing websites either.
Oh, they're terrible.
So I always refer them to a guy that we have a deal. So I like, look, the first time he did a few websites for my clients, it's like, look, I'm gonna check them out. If you're really good,
right,
and you're not super expensive,
right,
I don't mind sending people to you. And he did his website. It was so damn good.
Yeah.
Way beyond my skill. And he's awesome. He hasn't done my website yet though. He probably will later on, because my website's just basic, minimalist type thing, right? It has my services, the podcast, and how to contact me.
Right.
That's about it. But the more this thing grows, not just the podcast, like there's 4 different sections my company will turn into, and I'm gonna change my name to the creative company instead of career marketing, because it'll be more the marketing.
Right.
Once that happens, I'll need a good website beyond what my skill can do.
Yeah.
Right. So I totally feel your website is like, especially if you're advertising, it's going to be your landing page for people. So it has to look at least decent.
Right.
So if you can't do it or don't want to do it, I always make her do it.
Yeah.
She designed my website. So she did quite a good job.
Yeah.
I just suck at it, and I hate sitting down doing it.
I don't have the patience for it, man. Like I mean, like because it's like for me, I have to sit down. I got to go through how many pictures. Like okay, I'm going to put these up, and then especially with photography stuff, it's a ever evolving. Like for portfolio stuff. Like I'm all the time shooting portfolio stuff. I mean, all the time, and it's just because that I want to keep new content, fresh content. Things change, styles change. You learn something new. I want to put new stuff out, so all the time changing stuff. Same thing with like my band members. The same thing. Trying to get them to understand is, we took band photos, and they're like, okay, we're good now. Like, no, I mean, we gotta continue to take stuff. Like, y'all have access to our Facebook page, so post something. I mean, hey guys, this is Ken from Wildcard. Hope you guys just post something.
Right.
Because if you don't, then it changes the algorithm and it just screws up everything else. So, but keeping content fresh and all the time posting stuff is just, I I don't have the patience to do it for website stuff.
Yeah.
It's just, I just don't, because I have so much content that because I shoot stuff, new stuff, like on the weekly, like trying to keep new stuff. Like I shot stuff yesterday with a model yesterday, and so it's just all the time trying to keep the stuff. And so like when it comes to January, like I'm going to go in a different direction of like I'm going to do less model stuff, and I'm going to start going more towards like headshots and family stuff and weddings. So that's going to be like my three things. So now I have to start doing, I need new headshot stuff, and I need new family images, and so now I've got to kind of start going more towards that. So because I've got a plethora of like other stuff, but changing content, changing direction. Like I tried to like my YouTube page is the Kentucky Photographer, so I was trying to market it that way. But now, like I said earlier, like I'm trying to figure out a way to push the music side and then photography at the same time. Like how can do I keep it separate on YouTube, or do I put it all together on one YouTube channel? And if I do it all together, how do I incorporate it all together? Like how do I do it? And how do I make it where somebody is interested in it? Like how do they search it? Like what is it that I can drive it towards a base of who would be interested in it?
Right.
So that's the conundrum I'm at right now is like how do I do this? So I'm one of these people, like I'll sit and just let it kind of stew for a little bit, kind of play with stuff around. I'll post up here and there, see what kind of takes off and see what doesn't. And I mean, there's not very many people, man, because you're talking about a very select group of people, right? So my page is like, if you're a photographer and you're wanting to try, and you're interested in that, you're going to look specifically for photographer stuff. If you're a musician or a drummer, like you're going to specifically search for this kind of stuff, and you want to see, do I want to specifically market to that person? How can I be in a broader base, right? So that's where I'm at with that right now. So I'm trying to figure out how can I broadly do this with where I'm at now.
Yeah. I want to tell you on the podcast, but we got to wrap this one up.
Yeah.
I don't know how much longer. Yeah, see, I knew it was about to die.
Yeah.
It was on like 58%. This is a really good battery computer too, but we've been going longer than I expected.
How long have we been talking?
For like an hour and 40 minutes.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, I did. It kind of passed by.
Yeah.
But tell everyone, where they can find all your stuff.
YouTube, it's I'm Chris Wicker, the Kentucky Photographer. So you can go there. My website so my Facebook is Chris Wicker Designer Images. So it's kind of what I've always been my base by. And my main band I play with is Wild Card. You can find us. We're starting our tour back in 2023.
Where are you going?
We're just local. We're starting to book back our local stuff. Like I think our first show, we have a couple shows here in Richmond at the Barrel House, Bluegrass Barrel House, and we have a couple of places here. But we got some stuff in Lexington going on, so we're all the time booking stuff that way. I have another band called No Fences I play with, so that's one of the bands. So I don't have anything booked out, and then I'm all the time just bouncing around. Who needs a drummer for tonight or whatever? So I'm all the time. I'm a hired gun sometimes, so, yeah. But you can find us on Facebook or YouTube, something like that, one of those platforms.
You got a cool last name, too, by the way.
Oh, my last name?
Yeah, Wicker.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
People always say it's like they'll put a T in there, Whitaker. Even in the Army, man, your name tag, it says WHICKER. People look at it like a Whitaker, like, man, where do you see a T in my name?
Whitaker. I mean, because I just got Corey Carr. It's the most boring shit you can possibly get. Yeah. It's like Joe Brown or something. It's so awful.
There was a long time people thought that my grandmother thought we were from Germany, but I did like a lot of research, like ancestry thing, so we're actually from England.
Ooh.
Yeah. So come across on the big boat into Virginia, or North Carolina, into Virginia, into Kentucky. So you can kind of follow the Appalachian Trail that they followed, and then they kind of settled in Kentucky.
Yeah, you look like you could be a knight. Wear some armor.
It's funny, man. Like I've got Knights Templar sleeve I've worked on here. So I've always been into. I saw that. Yeah, it's funny. 'Cause I've got a sword in my bedroom. It's really funny. Like I saw the sword set, and I was like, maybe we'll just collect swords. Like I've got a random sword in my bedroom. Like who keeps a random? It's a sword in the corner.
Yeah, just in the.
You know, like there's nothing else that's even related to a sword. It's just a sword in the corner. And I remember I used it for. So I remember when I worked for the police department. I don't know how this sword ended up in our evidence room. I had no idea. I was like, why do we have a sword in evidence? Like why do we have like a knight sword with a jewel in the middle of it? We'd had no idea why. So we went through this process, like, can I buy the sword? What are you going to do with it? So I went through a process where they just, I got the sword. So I don't know. I mean, I have no idea why they had a sword in evidence, but I have that sword.
Yeah.
It's just a random sword in a corner.
Well, I started doing HEMA, which is historical European martial arts.
Oh, okay.
Sword fighting with armor.
Yeah.
I'm still working on getting all my equipment because I got to put money to the company. And that equipment is not cheap.
Man, on YouTube, there's these guys that dress up in these armors and they have sword fights and they beat the shit.
That's what it is, yeah.
Oh, my God.
It's so much fun, man.
Dude, I ain't no way.
I mean, you did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I did some.
Yeah, but I'm not taking a metal sword and beating the shit out of somebody with it.
You got armor on.
I don't care. I mean, you can still get concussed, man, or somebody get
Yeah.
Oh my! I saw some dude, man, he got hit with the thing in the back of the head.
Yeah.
He just fell like that. I was like, no, sir.
Oh, yeah.
No way.
They've told me stories of people getting their fingers broken, like the saber
Oh,
matches.
yeah. I mean,
so if you bring your hand up while you're fighting in saber and someone slaps, that thing breaks immediately.
No.
And it's fun though. I mean, keep your hand back.
How old are you?
23.
Yeah, man. You get older, you don't like pain. You don't like being hurt at
I
all.
like pain, but something about I think I kind of need it.
That stuff is cool. Like, I mean, I would have done it at your age. I mean, man, I was jumping off, like, rappelling, jumping out of airplanes. Like, I was all about it.
I mean, I wouldn't do that.
I mean, like, I was all about it. Like, when I was in Korea for a year. I did rappelling, and I jumped. But we were doing, like, this stuff, and it was just crazy. But I wouldn't do it now.
Yeah, I mean, I would never jump off a propeller anyway.
No.